It's just collecting dust anyway. My mother-in-law's laughter crackled through the phone, sending chills down my spine. Besides, Amanda needed the money more than you needed those old trinkets. I stood frozen in my kitchen, the morning sunlight suddenly feeling cold against my skin. The vintage jewelry box I've been searching for all week sat empty in front of me, its velvet lining mocking my stupidity for trusting family. My name is Sophia Martinez, and at 34, I just discovered my mother-in-law, Eleanor Bennett, had pawned my grandmother's priceless wedding jewelry collection to fund my sister-in-law's divorce from her third husband. Those trinkets were my grandmother's legacy, I managed to say, my voice steadier than I felt. She brought them from Spain when she immigrated. They were meant to be passed down to my daughter. Oh please, Eleanor scoffed. Amanda's divorce is a real crisis. She needs to hire the best lawyer to take that cheating bastard for everything he's worth. Your sentimental attachment to some old necklaces doesn't compare. I thought about the sapphire pendant my grandmother wore on her wedding day, the pearl earrings that survived a war, the diamond bracelet that paid for her passage to America. Each piece had a story, a memory, a piece of my heritage that Eleanor had casually discarded for her precious Amanda's latest marital drama. How did you even get into my safe? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Daniel gave me the combination months ago, she said, referring to my husband. He agrees with me, by the way. Family helps family. Of course he did. Daniel had always struggled to stand up to his mother, especially when it came to his sister Amanda. The golden child could do no wrong, even after 2 failed marriages and a gambling habit that had drained her savings. Those pieces were insured, I said quietly. And they weren't just jewelry, they were registered historical artifacts from the Spanish Civil War era. The silence on the other end was satisfying. What do you mean, insured? Eleanor's voice had lost its smugness. I continued, moving to my home office and pulling out a thick folder. That every piece was professionally appraised, photographed, and registered with both insurance companies and international cultural heritage organizations. My grandmother made sure of that before she passed. More silence. So when exactly did Amanda pawn them? I asked, opening my laptop. And which pawn shop did she use? I'll need that information for the police report. Police report. Eleanor's voice rose an octave. Don't be dramatic, Sophia. This is a family matter. We can sort this out ourselves. You're right about one thing, I replied, typing an email to my insurance agent. This is a family matter, just not the family you think. I hung up before she could respond and finished the email. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. For years, I'd watched Eleanor and Amanda take advantage of Daniel's loyalty, draining our resources for one crisis after another. But this time, they'd gone too far. My phone buzzed again. A text from Amanda. Mom told me what you said. Don't you dare file a police report. This divorce is hard enough without you making trouble. I ignored it and continued gathering documentation. The insurance company would need proof of ownership, the appraisals, the heritage certificates. My grandmother had been meticulous about documenting everything, teaching me the importance of protecting our family's legacy. Another call. Daniel this time. I let it go to voicemail. He'd sided with them, given them access to my private safe without my knowledge. Whatever he had to say could wait. My email pinged, a response from the insurance agent. Mrs. Martinez, this is extremely concerning. Given the historical significance of these pieces, we'll need to involve our Special Investigations Unit. Are you available for a meeting tomorrow? I replied affirmatively, then opened another email to my own lawyer. Eleanor and Amanda had no idea what they'd done. Those old trinkets weren't just jewelry, they were protected cultural artifacts. My grandmother had registered them with the Spanish government before emigrating, ensuring they could never be legally sold or pawned. My phone kept buzzing with texts and calls from Eleanor, Amanda, and Daniel. I silenced it and focused on my task. The betrayal hurt, but it had also opened my eyes. For too long, I tried to fit into the Bennett family, enduring their subtle digs and financial demands. They saw me as an outsider, someone they could take advantage of without consequences. But my grandmother hadn't raised me to be a victim. She'd survived a war, crossed an ocean, and built a new life while protecting our family's heritage. She'd also taught me the importance of standing up for myself. As I finished gathering the documentation, my laptop pinged with a new email. The subject line made my heart skip. Urgent, contact information for Bennett divorce proceedings. It was from Amanda's new lawyer requesting financial statements for the divorce case. I opened it, curious about what story they concocted to explain this sudden influx of cash for legal fees. What I read made my blood boil. They listed my grandmother's jewelry as jointly owned family assets that had been mutually agreed to be liquidated for family expenses. I forwarded the email to my lawyer with a single question: how many laws does this break? His response was immediate: several. Don't delete anything. I'm calling the State Bar Association first thing tomorrow. I sat back in my chair, a strange calm settling over me. Eleanor and Amanda had finally gone too far, and Daniel had helped them do it. They thought they were solving another family crisis, but they actually stepped into a legal nightmare of international proportions. My grandmother's voice echoed in my memory. Sometimes, my amour, the best revenge is simply letting people face the consequences of their actions. The next morning would bring investigations, legal proceedings, and undoubtedly more family drama. But for now, I had done what needed to be done. I opened my bottom desk drawer and pulled out a small velvet pouch, the one piece of jewelry I'd kept in my office safe instead of the one at home. My grandmother's wedding ring, the only piece that had escaped Eleanor's betrayal. I slipped it on my finger, its weight familiar and comforting. "Don't worry, abuela," I whispered. "We'll get them back." The insurance company's special investigations unit didn't waste any time. By 9 the next morning, I sat across from 2 investigators in their downtown office, spreading out my grandmother's meticulous documentation. "This is extraordinary," Maria Suarez, the lead investigator, said as she examined the heritage certificates. "These pieces aren't just jewelry, they're registered artifacts from the Spanish Civil War era. Your grandmother was remarkably thorough in documenting everything." I nodded, watching as her colleague photographed each document. She knew their value went beyond money. Each piece told a story of survival. "And your mother-in-law and sister-in-law pawned them without authorization." Maria's tone was sharp. "Do you know which pawn shop?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. "Eleanor's hysterical. Amanda's divorce lawyer just dropped her case. What did you do?" I showed the message to Maria, who made a note in her file. "The lawyer probably realized the legal implications. Using stolen artifacts as collateral for legal fees. That's a serious ethics violation." Just then, Maria's office phone rang. After a brief conversation, she turned to me with raised eyebrows. That was the Spanish Embassy's Cultural Affairs office. Apparently, they've been automatically notified of potential trafficking in registered artifacts. This just became international. My phone buzzed again. "Eleanor this time. You've ruined everything. Amanda's lawyer quit, and some government people are asking questions about the jewelry. You need to fix this now." I felt a cold satisfaction. "I'm not fixing anything," I texted back. "You did this to yourselves." Maria cleared her throat. "Mrs. Martinez, given the circumstances, will need to involve law enforcement. These aren't simple theft charges anymore. We're looking at international cultural property violations." I thought about all the times Eleanor and Amanda had taken advantage of our family, how Daniel had enabled them at every turn. "Do what you need to do," I said firmly. By afternoon, the situation had exploded. The pawnshop owner, faced with police inquiries, quickly revealed everything. Amanda had brought in the jewelry piece by piece over 2 weeks, spinning stories about inheritance and family permission. Daniel finally showed up at my office, his face pale. "Sophia, this is insane. The police just left my mother's house. She's beside herself." "And where were you when she was stealing my grandmother's jewelry?" I asked calmly, not looking up from my computer. "She said you'd agreed to help Amanda." "I didn't know." "You didn't ask." I cut him off. "You gave her the safe combination without even mentioning it to me. My grandmother's legacy, Daniel. Our daughter's inheritance." He sank into a chair, running his hands through his hair. "Amanda needed help. Her husband's threatening to take everything. So you helped them steal from me instead." I finally looked at him. "They're not the victims here, Daniel, and neither are you." His phone chimed, probably another crisis from Eleanor or Amanda. But before he could check it, my office door opened. Maria stood there with 2 police officers. "Mrs. Martinez," she said formally, "we have some updates. Would you like to discuss them privately?" I glanced at Daniel. No, he should hear this. Maybe he'll finally understand what his mother and sister have done. Maria nodded. The Spanish government is formally requesting the return of all pawned items under international heritage protection laws. They're also considering criminal charges against everyone involved in removing and selling the artifacts. Daniel's face went white. Criminal charges? But it was just family jewelry. No, I said quietly. It was never just jewelry. My grandmother registered each piece before leaving Spain. They're protected cultural artifacts. Eleanor and Amanda didn't just steal from me, they violated international law. The pawnshop has surrendered the pieces they still had, Maria continued, but several items were already sold. We'll need to track those down. Daniel's phone buzzed again. This time he checked it, and his expression crumpled. Amanda's husband's lawyer just found out about all this. He's using it against her in the divorce. Says it shows a pattern of financial misconduct. Well, I said, standing up, he's not wrong. Sophia, please, Daniel pleaded. There must be something you can do. They're family. I looked at my husband, really looked at him, and felt an overwhelming sadness. No, Daniel. They're your family, and it's time you understood the difference. Maria cleared her throat. Mr. Martinez, given your involvement in providing access to the safe, you might want to contact a lawyer yourself. He stared at her, then at me, realization finally dawning. You're really going through with this. Your mother and sister stole my heritage, Daniel. You helped them do it. What did you expect me to do? As if on cue, my phone lit up with an email from the Spanish embassy. They wanted to interview me about the artifact's provenance and discuss their historical significance. My grandmother's careful documentation was about to shed light on a collection that spanned generations of Spanish history. I gathered my things, ready to leave with Maria and the officers. I have a meeting with the embassy, I told Daniel. You should probably check on your mother and sister. I imagine they're having a difficult afternoon. He stood there, looking lost. What happens now? Now? I paused at the door. Now everyone faces the consequences of their choices, including you. 3 months after the investigation began, I sat in my lawyer's office reviewing the final settlement papers. The Spanish government had recovered most of the jewelry through an international art recovery team, though 2 pieces remained missing. Eleanor and Amanda faced hefty fines and potential criminal charges, while the pawnshop was under investigation for trafficking in protected artifacts. The embassy is impressed with your grandmother's documentation, my lawyer said, sliding a letter across the desk. They want to display the collection in Madrid's National History Museum. They're offering to name a wing after your family. I picked up the letter, thinking of my grandmother. She would have loved knowing her preservation efforts had such an impact. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Signing divorce papers today. I'm sorry it took all this to open my eyes. I set the phone down without responding. Daniel had finally chosen to separate after Eleanor and Amanda's actions led to him being named in the international investigation. Too little, too late. There's something else, my lawyer said, pulling out another document. Amanda's husband's legal team sent this over. Apparently, she used some of the money from pawning your jewelry to gamble. They've frozen her accounts pending investigation. I wasn't surprised. Amanda's gambling had always been the family's best-kept secret, covered up by Eleanor's excuses and Daniel's enabling. Now it was all coming to light. The door opened, and Maria from the insurance company entered, carrying a familiar velvet box. The restoration team finished their work, she said, placing it in front of me. Everything we recovered has been authenticated and documented. With trembling hands, I opened the box. There they were, my grandmother's sapphire pendant, the pearl earrings, most of the collection restored to its former glory. Only the diamond bracelet and a ruby ring remained missing, likely sold to private collectors. The Spanish authorities are still tracking the missing pieces, Maria assured me. But they're more interested in preserving what we have. The museum display will help document an important period in Spanish history. My phone buzzed again, Eleanor this time. They're making me sell my house to pay the fines. How could you do this to family? I showed the message to my lawyer, who shook his head. She still doesn't get it, does she? These weren't just family heirlooms. They were protected historical artifacts. No, I agreed. She never understood what family really means. Just then, my daughter Sophia, named after my grandmother, poked her head in. She'd been waiting in the reception area with my aunt. At 13, she was the same age I'd been when my grandmother first showed me the jewelry collection and told me its history. "Is it true, Mom?" she asked, eyes wide. "Are they really going to put Bisabuela's jewelry in a museum?" I beckoned her over, opening the velvet box. "Yes, my amor. Come see. These pieces tell the story of our family's strength, of your great-grandmother's courage." Sophia gently touched the sapphire pendant. "Can you tell me the stories again?" Of course. I lifted the pendant, remembering my grandmother's words. "This one she wore when she married your great-grandfather, just before the war. She hid it in a loaf of bread when they fled Madrid." As I shared our family history with Sophia, I felt a sense of peace. Eleanor and Amanda had tried to erase our legacy for their own selfish needs, but they failed. Instead, they'd helped preserve it for generations to come. My phone lit up with messages from Eleanor and Amanda's relatives, all angry about the consequences the two women now faced. I silenced it without reading them. Their drama was no longer my concern. "Mrs. Martinez," Maria interrupted gently, "the embassy would like you to speak at the exhibition opening. They think it's important to have a family member share the personal history behind the collection." I looked at Sophia, still entranced by her great-grandmother's jewelry. "Yes," I said. "These stories need to be told. That's what family legacy really means, not just keeping things, but preserving their meaning." Later that evening, as Sophia and I sorted through old family photographs to contribute to the museum display, I found a picture of my grandmother wearing the missing diamond bracelet. On the back, she'd written in her elegant script, "Sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when to stand your ground." She'd been right. By standing my ground, I hadn't just recovered our family's treasures, I'd ensured their story would be preserved for future generations. Eleanor and Amanda had tried to reduce my grandmother's legacy to mere palming value, but instead, they'd elevated it to its rightful historical significance. The missing pieces might never be found, but in a way, that too was part of our family story now, a reminder that some things, once lost, can't be replaced. But the most important things, the stories, the strength, the legacy, remained intact, stronger than ever. Sophia looked up from the photographs. "Mom, I'm proud we're doing this. Bisabuela would be proud too." I hugged her close, my grandmother's wedding ring warm on my finger. "Yes, my amor. She would be very proud indeed."